We were at a West Coast Computer Fair in 1978, and all my non-Asian frat brothers decided to go have lunch. So we're sitting there, and this group of contingents of Japanese executives show up, thinking that we were Japanese Americans. We didn't want to tell them we were not, but so we kind of faked it. And then they say, hey, we're looking for developers to develop software for a new computer that we're planning to launch in Japan. And it turned out that group of Chinese executives came from a company called ASCII Microsoft of Japan. And I got my first contracts to actually develop games for the Japanese Microsoft standard called the MSA.
Another hit game that was developed was Tetris, which you first licensed from its Soviet creator in 1987. Yeah. Were there some negotiations with the Soviet government as well on that, or
dealing with the Russians?
You know, this class is Silicon Valley and the U.S. government, so government.
The difference between negotiating the rights for Tetris is not that different than negotiating a nuclear disarmament treaty with them. Right? It's kind of really interesting. You know, what happened to us was this. We were sitting around at the Consumer Electronics Show, and typically you have these guys who who scurry around looking for interesting games from abroad and try to get the rights and then license them into the U.S. by selling it to a game publisher. And so they showed us this game, and it was Tetris, and I loved it. I said, this is great. And the agent was saying, hey, look, everybody's turned down this game because, you know, Brother Bun turned down the game, EA turned down the game, Sega turned down the game because, you know, it was a stupid game, right? The graphics were awful, nobody dies, you know, bad sound, right? And I kind of go, yeah, but it's really addicting. I really kind of like this game. And I said, but I want to make some changes. I need to talk to the programmers. And the agent kind of looks at me, he goes, well, we got a problem here. I go, what's the problem? He goes, well, the programmers are in the Soviet Union. So I turned to my partner, Phil Adams. I said, get the rights. Put it in a red box with a hammer and sickle and get it out in the next 6 months, because I had heard through the rumor mill that there was going to be the very first set of talks between the Soviet Union and the US, and it would be between Reagan and Gorbachev. So I said, get the game rights, right? And if this thing actually comes to you, we're going to launch the game during the talks. And that's what we did, right? We launched the game during the talks. We even hired a fake Gorbachev and a fake Ronald Reagan lookalike. And we were running ads in the USA Today that says, you know, because there'll be the headlines, you know, Gorbachev meets with Reagan, and going through all the issues around nuclear proliferation. And then on, you know, the back of the page would be our ad with the fake Reagan and Gorbachev, saying what they were really doing during the secret summits. They were playing Tetris, right? But it got ugly. The game became a hit, and I had met a friend in Japan, and he wanted to license it to the Japanese. And I came back, and there's a whole story. You can buy several books on this. You know, the rights got confused, and so the Russians decided that there was going to be a lot of money into this thing. And because Nintendo wanted it for the Game Boy. And my parent company at that time, we were owned by the Maxwell Corporation. And my not particularly smart sister company in England decided to trade the rights of Tetris for Blasteroids. Like, who cares about Blasteroids? It's an awful game. So what they did was they renegotiated the rights in Japan and then went back to Russia and get the Russians to say that the original contract was void, and which would allow them to get the rights directly to Nintendo, right? And basically null and voiding the original contract that we have, because their claim was the agency that we were dealing with didn't have the rights to negotiate it, and they were kind of making up the rules as they went along. I mean, it all worked out in the end because at least I got my rights protected. Because it was, again, the Japanese were good to me, but the other guys got all cut out. Atari got cut out, and the game became a big hit. And the reason why it became a big hit was because it was the first game to ship packed in with the first generation Game Boy. In fact, there's some pictures of Hillary Clinton playing Tetris. She was a hardcore Tetris player. You know, she had her own Game Boy, and she would endlessly play it. So there's actually a picture, if you look it up on the internet, of her playing on the Game Boy on an airplane playing Tetris. But it